Hey, welcome to Things I Learned Last Night. A quick listener note for this episode. This is one that we recorded 3 years ago, and it was supposed to release on March 1st of 2022. And then a couple days before release, Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine. And so we thought that was in poor taste to release an episode about Putin in the middle of this
invasion.
Especially like in the height of that. Yes.
Yeah. And especially considering this is a comedy podcast and we joke around. There's a lot of bits and jokes in the episode.
Yeah.
And we didn't feel like it was appropriate at the time.
Yeah. But now it's been a while, and it does seem like a lot of people maybe don't know the history or how he came to become the dictator of Russia. And so we think that might be an important thing, because you actually do learn all the stuff in this show. Yeah. And so even though this is 3 years old, so obviously the past 3 years isn't included.
Not part
at the end of the episode, we do talk about what his vision was, because he hadn't invaded Ukraine at that point when we recorded. And we talked about, what he might be considering.
Like was happening.
Yeah. So we hope this episode gives you a little more understanding of what's going on in the world. And, it's a good episode. And so we're releasing it 3 years later. And I think that it's going to be informative. We hope it's informative anyway. So, but also it's a comedy podcast.
Yeah. So have fun.
Enjoy this. Also, I feel like it should be said that the official position of this podcast is that Russia's the bad guy. And then if you find yourself being like, maybe Russia's not the bad guy, you're wrong. This isn't one of the things where I'm willing to be like, it's nuanced. It's not.
It's not.
So at all. It's not, Yeah. So anyway, you're wrong. And if that angers you, that this show is explicitly anti-Russian, I just want to say to you and your little bot friends,
Мне всё равно.
So, this is the episode.
Hey, man.
What's up?
Have you ever heard of Vladimir Putin?
Oh my goodness. I have wanted an episode about anything else. I have been asking for I specifically said, don't do an episode about Putin. And here we are.
You've been asking for an episode about Putin.
I am super curious.
Yeah.
I don't know how. The main thing I'm curious about is the pictures. And you know which one I'm talking about? Where he's like riding a bear or whatever?
We'll talk about it.
Okay. It's just like, was that him trolling? Was that serious? Like, that's the main thing. That's what's got that. I just, is Vladimir Putin an AI?
He might be. He could be. Honestly, I think you're going to be surprised how much we're going to talk about aliens in this episode.
Shut up. Are you serious?
No, not at all.
Oh, my God. My heart dropped. I was like, gosh dang it. Of course it would be. All right. Well, I tell you what we do. We do be Putin on the theme song. So go ahead and roll that real quick. Hey, we like how corrupt you were. Would you like to corrupt with us?
Reggie, my ring doorbell.
I'm just doing that so we don't get killed. I'm saying it's possible.
They're like, we're Russians. We're better than them. Just fight them.
If a man is standing in front of flames saying that I'm going to shoot all of you,
hey, go home.
I don't even need to see a gun either. I'm out. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. Things I learned last night. So our pal Vlad, not our pal. We're not friends with him. We should edit that part out.
Yeah, Vladimir Putin. Can you guess his middle name?
Oh gosh, Igor.
Nope.
Hold on. Power.
No. It's a good guess.
Control.
Good guess. Also a good guess.
Money.
Great guess. These are great guesses.
What is it?
His full name is Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin. You picked the wrong time to take a sip of water. Honey, that is a great name. We should do it again.
His name is Vlad? Are you kidding me right now?
Vlad Putin. Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin.
Okay, you can pick. You can pick his first name if I get to pick his middle name. I get to pick both. And they're both my name. This is Jaron Jr. His full name is Jaron Myers.
We legally changed our last name to Jaron so he could be Jaron.
My hope is that when I'm a ghost, every time someone says his name, I'll appear. You know?
Yes.
Hello? You said my name 3 times.
You summoned me.
You summoned? You summoned? That's how I'm going to answer phone calls from now on. You summoned? So Vlad
was born in 1952.
This is okay. Here's the reason I was really interested, just before we get into the whole episode, is that when you think of like dictators or people who are like in charge, insane people in roles of power, like I guess my brain is just like they've just been there forever.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah,
but our old Vlad didn't rise to power until like the 2000s something.
Yeah, I mean he has been there for basically forever.
Yeah,
but not forever. You know,
right. But I'm saying like, yeah, I'm interested in how he became. Go ahead.
Yeah. So we'll look at his whole story.
Vladimir.
We'll spend a lot of time on how he got to where he is now.
His dad, Vladimir. Dadimir
Fish.
So Dadimir and his wife, his
dad's name was also Vladimir.
Yeah, obviously.
So Vlad was born in Russia and during the Soviet Union era. He was born in 52. Soviet was pretty big at that time. They were pretty popular.
Super popular. Yeah,
really popular. Everybody was talking about them. Yeah. And he, as a young child, was weirdly interested in being in the KGB. If you don't know, the KGB is basically their CIA.
Website where they sell cars. He was like, that website can look at a car and tell you how much it's worth.
I want to be one of those. I want to be that website. The KGB was basically the Soviet Union CIA, but if the CIA was really corrupt.
No rules.
So
yeah.
Exactly the same. But
the KGB was like the CIA if they were bad at covering up what they're doing.
Yeah, the KGB
CIA is at least good enough that the only people who realize are like people who can't spell in the YouTube comments. You know, that's the only people who know what the CIA is actually doing, right?
The KGB is the CIA. They just got caught. So yeah, they're pretty accurate. He really, really wanted to be in the KGB. And so at the age of 16, from a young age, at the age of 16, he actually went to the local KGB office and was like, what do I got to do to be in the KGB office or KGB or like be one of you? I want to be like you. How do I do that? And the guy,
I want to be like you. No. I want to walk like you, talk like you too.
Yeah. And the guy,
I want to murder people, but don't get away with it. Ba-ba-da.
The guy said, go to law school, never come here again.
Is that what he said?
Yep.
Really?
Yeah. So
Vladimir said, okay.
So he started planning his journey towards law school. Meanwhile, his parents thought he should get involved in extracurriculars for a few reasons. One, both of his siblings died, and he was pretty distraught
about what?
Different things.
Okay.
There's not really... They just died. So both of his siblings died. Obviously very traumatic. He was left as the only child left in the family. Yeah. His family was very not well off. They shared an apartment with 6 other families.
Really?
Yeah. And he talks about killing the rats in his hallway as a child. So
where does he talk about these things? In the phone interview you did with him? What are you talking about?
Yeah. I mean,
did you read his book?
He's the president of one of the largest countries in the world. Like, obviously, he talks about things sometimes.
Oh, okay, sorry.
And we've got record of it. Yeah. He used to kill the rats in his hallways. Well, in his teen years, his parents wanted him to get involved in boxing. And during his first match, he broke his nose and was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Yeah. And so...
Well, he's actually more like, I don't want to do this. But I get it.
But ironically, somehow... he discovered MMA, which is very similar, and was like, I want to do that.
Yeah. He's like, boxing? Too many letters. I only like KGB and MMA.
You can't abbreviate boxing. What am I going to call it?
Box?
I just want to box.
It still works, though. I didn't say it out loud because I realized it still worked, but you went for it. You full on jumped into it.
Yep.
How do you think it's spelled?
BOX.
Yeah.
Thanks for asking. So he got into MMA, and this explains a lot because he dove in hard and loved it. And so Putin is just an
explains
MMA
why
bro.
He's got those weird ears. Does he get those cauliflower ears?
He doesn't.
Oh,
he doesn't.
Are you looking at a picture of him right now? Is he your laptop background? You're looking down.
I changed my background for this episode.
So he got really into MMA.
He got really into MMA. So he became a full MMA bro. Was all about it. Got sponsored by Monster Energy in 68.
Stop it. But it is in 68, so he's still 16?
Yeah, he's young. And he did this for years, went to law school, and then somehow, I don't know how this happened, because his advice was go to law school, never come here again. But he made it to the KGB. And so he gets hired. And
that's because that's what they told him to do. He's like, how do I get here? And they said, never come here again and go to law school.
And he did it, and they were like, hey, he did what we said. Call him.
Didn't even have to graduate. just went to law school, and they were like, yep.
This is what we wanted you to do. So anyways, so he goes to law school and then joins the KGB. And in 1975, he joins the KGB. And
so he was KGB at like the height of the KGB stuff.
Oh yeah. And he wasn't like he wanted to be like an operative, like overseas, like doing real espionage stuff. He wasn't.
I would like to MMA my enemies.
I joined the KGB so I could MMA my enemies. I don't want to box them. So he never got to do exactly what he wanted, like any real serious espionage. Like he did like some low level spy stuff. Like they were like, hey, your neighbor's a little weird. Can you watch him for a few days and let us know what you think
this was
about
back
him?
before Ring doorbells too. So like they just had to pay people, Like I pay the guy outside my apartment. I couldn't afford a Ring doorbell, but I could pay that guy.
He's out there with his iPhone. And every time someone weird walks by, he sends you a text of the video.
Motion at your front door. Someone comes up, the DoorDash guy drops off the food. He's like, all right, thanks. I'll let him know. And then he knocks on the door and goes, doos.
You open the door. You're like, thanks, Reggie.
Reggie, Reggie,
Reggie, my Ring doorbell.
What?
So he KJV'd for a while.
Yeah.
I keep saying KJ, KG, KJV. He KJV'd for a while. Yeah. The majority of his time he spent posted in Dresden, East Germany.
Okay.
And so while he was there, he was he had an undercover identity as a translator. So he was translating German for people.
He was undercover though. Didn't actually know how to do it. It's just like,
as long as I'm confident about German, speaking German in Germany, no one will notice.
9. Yeah.
So he was posted there, and it was kind of just like, I don't know. He did a lot of paperwork, some low level spying.
Yeah,
nothing
it wasn't
crazy.
fun.
He did have one big moment though, at the fall of the Berlin Wall. When the wall came down, he was posted in Dresden, Germany, and there was a lot of people suspected that their office was a KGB office, and so the locals came with like a riot.
Was it disguised as a translation office?
Yeah, they were translators. Welcome to the local translation.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what do they just go like? We need this translated.
Oh, that was before Google Translate. Like there had to be a local mom and pop translator.
Yeah, I'm serious. Is that a thing?
I don't know. I wasn't alive.
You a storefront translator?
Maybe.
Hey, why don't you go down to the 5 and Dime and get me some
Give me some English.
Licorice and a soda pop, and then also, why don't you get this translated while you're down there, huh?
I'm looking to get some German.
Yeah. And then, like, if they translate German to Russian, do you have to go to a different storefront? If this translated to a different language? This is serious.
This is a complex scenario.
I'm asking.
I don't know the answer to this. So if you do, leave it in the comments below. Or leave a review about it. I don't know.
And now, how much demand was there that you had a storefront?
Here's my guess. Evidently not much, because everybody knew it was a KGB office.
Oh, for sure.
So when the Berlin Wall fell,
that's what I'm saying.
They were like, these guys are obviously Russians.
Yeah, if someone came in with a pop-up translation desk, it's like walking downtown and seeing an information desk on the sidewalk. You're like, that's suspicious.
Yeah, this is not good. So a bunch of, like, a riot formed outside of their office when the Berlin Wall went down.
They're like, we know who you are.
Yeah, and so they called Moscow and they were like, hey, we need some help. These people are freaking out. There's like 4 of them there. They expected nothing to happen in this town, right? But the wall went down, and so but Moscow was like, nah, we think you guys can handle it.
Moscow was like, speak Russian.
Moscow was like, can you go to the local
translator and translate this message? We can't understand you.
So Moscow was like, we think you could handle it. So
there's an angry mob outside. 4 of you. I don't know. Didn't one of you be an MMA fighter or something like that?
Go fight them or something. They're like, we're Russians. We're better than them. Just fight them. You'll win.
That's honestly probably what it was. That is word for word the phone call.
So here's what happened. Putin was in charge of this branch, right? And so he ordered his team to burn all their files. So in the back room, they just caught all their files on fire, just in case.
Yeah. Whoops.
He went outside by himself and went to the crowd and said, if you don't leave, we will shoot all of you. They didn't have a gun. He just went outside and confidently said, if you don't leave, we'll shoot all of you. And everybody left.
What were they even saying? Like, where did they come from?
We know who you are. Translate this.
The wall is gone. You will be too. The wall is gone. You get out here. And then he just comes out and goes, hey guys, if you don't stop, I'm going to shoot every single one of you.
It's like, all right. I think I got somewhere else to be.
Pretty convincing. Say it in German.
Can you translate that?
Translate that to German, please? We don't understand you.
Yeah. So that's
he just confidently yelled that to a crowd of people.
Yes.
If you don't leave, I'll shoot all of you. While fire
is happening behind
in the translating. So it's like, you know what? I think I don't even need a translator for this message. I get it.
So
if a man is standing in front of flames saying that I'm going to shoot all of you,
hey, go home.
I don't even need to see a gun either. I'm out. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. Cool.
So the Berlin Wall goes down. The Soviet Union falls.
He's got his fingers in the jacket like a gas station robber. Comes out, if you don't leave,
I'll shoot every one of you.
I'll do it.
Hey, if you've been watching for a minute and you like this show, a great way to help out is by becoming a Patreon supporter. Our patrons get a ton of perks for their support. They get ad-free episodes a week early. They get a Discord with our hosts and producers. We do monthly hangouts. There's a way to get birthday messages on your birthday. There's a lot of great perks, but more than anything, you just help make sure that this show continues to happen forever. We never want to stop. We're going to keep doing this forever. If we have enough patron supporters, we can put our brains in those little vats and like have AI pretend it's us. And so like we can keep doing it long after we die. But that only happens if you support us on Patreon. So we appreciate your support. Thanks for your help. If you don't want to support, that's totally fine. Thanks for being here. We really appreciate you watching this show.
Okay, so sorry. It's just the visual.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
So they all left, and then they had to leave the translation store. They can't go back the next day.
No. Yeah, they went home. They went back to Russia. Shortly
Imagine
after
being the landlord, though. You show up to your building the next day, you're like, oh, okay.
What happened here? So the Berlin Wall falls shortly after the Soviet Union falls.
Yeah.
And the KGB gets shut down because what happens is Russia gets reorganized and they adopt democracy really because the West made them.
Yeah.
They said, you're a democracy now.
Like, oh, okay.
And the KGB gets shut down. So now Vlad is looking for a job. Vlad is looking for a job. Very, very angry because when the Soviet Union fell, a bunch of Russia became new countries that are not Russia anymore. And so they're like, oh, this is our land. Mother Russia, it's not, that stuff they say.
Russian stuff. Oh, look at my nesting dolls. I don't, Russian stuff.
So they, so he goes back to St. Petersburg, which is his hometown,
Florida. St. Petersburg, Florida. Go ahead.
Gosh, that got me really good. So he goes back to St. Petersburg, Russia, and something interesting happens here. He goes. This is his hometown.
Yeah.
It was Leningrad when he was born, but now it's St. Petersburg because Soviet Union is gone. So he became an advisor of the mayor of the town. How that lined up, I'm not really sure.
Well, the mayor spoke German, so he needed a translator.
Oh, you're from that translator office in Dresden. Yeah. I remember that. You shot all those people.
I said I would if they didn't leave.
But I didn't. But
shoot they left.
So he became their advisor, and in a strange set of circumstances, he went from...
What year is this?
This is 1990.
Okay.
He spent some time as the advisor, went through this really, really weird political, legal scenario that kind of led to his, the mayor getting in some serious hot water for some fraud type stuff.
Okay.
And he helped him and his family escape the country.
Vlad did?
Yeah. Vlad
helped the mayor.
Yeah.
Escape the country.
Get out of the country.
Okay.
Well, the mayor was tied really close to the president of the country. And the president
was like, thanks for doing that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool of you. You want to come work at the...
Would you like to advise me as well?
Well, he was like, you want to come work at the Kremlin, which is the White House. They call it the Kremlin.
Right.
And so he did. So he came in 96 as a low-level advisor in the Kremlin and worked his way up.
Which sounds, I've always thought this too, sounds evil. It just, let's analyze the word Kremlin.
Yeah, that sounds criminal.
I wasn't even thinking that. I was thinking, maybe it's just because I think gremlin. And they did that on purpose too. They hated the Russians thing too, for sure, right? But
it does sound
that sounds
sketchy.
Like Kremlin sounds like there's a sketchy lamp on the street and a spooky looking goblin thing is called a Kremlin.
Yep. Yeah.
So it sounds evil.
Sounds very evil. So anyways,
that's what they call the administration.
He works his way up the political ladder there.
Okay.
Ends up becoming Boris Yeltsin, who's the president in the late 90s.
Yeah.
His right-hand man. But only in...
But how?
Not in title, but in just...
So he's helping the mayor escape the country. That's an illegal thing. He was already doing something sketchy.
Yes.
So then, if you're working your way up through a already corrupt...
Yeah, everyone's like, hey, you were pretty corrupt back there.
We like how corrupt you were. Would you like to corrupt with us? Fancy the corruption.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
You corrupted?
I corrupta.
Okay. So that's what I'm saying is that if corruption brought him into the circle, then more corruption is what advances him in the circle.
Yes.
We can assume.
Yes. Meanwhile, he becomes Boris Yeltsin's like right-hand man, only in like action, not in title. Like he's still kind of a low-level advisor in title. Boris Yeltsin was an incredibly corrupt politician. And he set up this scenario where he honestly kind of farmed out political leadership of the country to the 7 wealthiest people in the country. They called them the oligarchs. And they were these billionaires in the country that basically made all the political decisions for the country.
Which is the same as ours. We just call ours the Olive Garden.
Once a year, Tim Cook,
the CEO of Olive Garden,
Tim Cook, Bezos,
comes out of his little cave, and if he sees his shadow, taxes go up.
Well, the Olive Garden gremlin saw his shadow.
Well,
Looks like I'm paying more for my house this year.
I guess.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. So very corrupt president, right?
Yeah.
And things were starting to catch up to him, and it looked like
But the corruption wasn't being hidden well enough.
Yeah, they weren't hiding it.
Yeah. I mean, they weren't to begin with, but it wasn't being hidden enough to even like, you guys aren't even trying anymore.
And some of the things that he had done were starting to come to light, and it looked like he was going to face the music per se.
Okay.
And this very strange set of circumstances unfolded starting in about November of 1999. That unraveled really quickly.
Okay.
So Boris fired his prime minister and replaced him with Vladimir Putin.
What role is a prime minister in Russia?
Basically vice president.
Oh, okay.
So he fires his prime minister and puts
His
Vladimir
literal
Putin
number
in there.
2.
Yeah.
And then
Puts Vladimir Putin in that role.
Vlad jumps from like whatever low position advisor role
Nobody
he
knows
had
who he is.
to now he's the prime minister.
Yeah, of the country. And everyone's like, who is this guy? Nobody knows who he is.
Here's my server at Olive Garden once. Don't worry about it.
At the end of December, abruptly, nobody saw this coming. Boris Yeltsin just steps down.
Yeltsin. I thought you were going to say he yelled
Yeltsin.
something. Boris yells, "I'm out!" No one saw this coming.
No, Boris Yeltsin just resigned, making Vladimir Putin the president.
In December of 99.
In December of 99.
That's what I'm saying.
And so he just became president overnight. Well, the elections were coming up a few months down the line, about 4 or 5 months down the line.
Okay.
In 2000. Vlad becomes president. 2 months later, a series of bombings happens around Russia that get traced back to a group of terrorists in Chechnya, which is one of the countries that
used to be part of Russia. Yes.
So Vlad, as acting president, takes and this wasn't like a small bomb, like 300 people died. Like it was a huge geopolitical event. And so Vlad swiftly, like the next day, sends a massive military force to Chechnya and just declares war on them, annexes it, and takes it back for Russia. And becomes Russia's hero. And so 2 months later, when open elections come, everybody votes for, like it's a landslide, like 90% of the nation votes for Vlad. There was...
And do we think that was a legitimate election?
There was about 9 people who ran in this election.
And 90% voted for it.
Yeah, because...
Do we think that was legitimate?
He was the hero. So there has been a lot of talk about what happened here. The theory is that Boris knew he was in a lot of trouble, and he knew that Vlad was corrupt and was a good friend and would protect him.
Yeah.
And so he fired his prime minister, who he didn't trust, put Vlad in that spot, stepped down so Vlad could become president, and then
they coordinated bombed
and blamed Chechnya so that way Vlad could go invade and become the hero and become president. And the first thing Vlad did was grant him amnesty. And so, it seems very likely that that's the scenario.
Well, especially now with even more hindsight of like the past, 20 something years of who Vladimir has shown himself to be.
Yeah.
We go, I bet that was just totally legitimate in the year 2000. Okay. So that was
a lot of independent
studies
have happened to say that was not the case, that didn't happen. But Anybody
happy accident.
Anybody who has tried to study into this within Russia has been imprisoned. There's a lot of things that point to that being pretty planned out, you know?
Or if we did a benefit of the doubt scenario, right? Boris steps down, Vlad's in power now, and they're just hoping that he wins the election.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, but then the bombings do happen. Let's say it is, you know, and it's just kind of like that was just, you know, but it's super convenient that won't happen.
They capitalized off of the disaster.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. Also possible.
Because he sat down with enough time to do a campaign if there was going to be one.
Yeah. Yeah. So he becomes legitimate president.
I'm just doing that so we don't get killed. I'm saying it's possible. It's possible. If this is our last episode, you know which one it was.
You know what happened.
Yeah.
Go on down to the translation office so you can understand that we're on your side.
Yeah, just Google translator. It'll find you the nearest translator.
So Putin does his first presidency and it's totally legitimate. 4-year term, like us, right? And for the most part, he does a really good job, like being a politician. Everybody loves him. And he does a really good job swaying opinion to where everybody continues to love him.
Okay.
He did do a couple relatively sketchy things. For example, one of the oligarchs in a meeting was a little bit more Western mindset than the rest of the oligarchs. The rest of them were much more Eastern. And he, in a meeting with the president, basically voiced his opinion that they should try to steer away from the old Russian ways. Vlad is a very much Soviet Union, KGB kind of mindset.
Right.
And so that guy went to prison for 14 months and his companies got broken up. And now he lives not in Russia, has come out of prison and lives somewhere else. So
somewhere else.
So yeah, he did some sketchy things, but by and large, like did a pretty decent job being just like a normal, relatively under the radar president that's just being political, right?
Sure.
So his second term comes up for renewal and he wins that presidency again. And so he's president until 2008. During this presidency, what he does is he started this political process to extend the term limit from 4 years to 6 years. Which passes. However, it passes so close to the next election that they say, okay, the current president can't do it. Neither can the following. So the president after that will then have a 6-year term limit.
Sure.
So that would go into effect in the 2012 election is the idea. But they also had a term limit of 2 terms. So Vlad in 2008, at
the end of his second term,
he hires a
plastic surgeon to change his face completely. And he starts going by his middle name.
Vladimirovich.
You can call me Vladimir for, for short. But I am running for president.
I am a totally different guy who's never been president in this country before.
Yeah. And if you have any questions, you shouldn't. If you have any questions, I will shoot you with my gun. That I promise I have.
Oh my gosh.
So who does he hire?
So he hires a prime minister, Dmitry Medvedev.
The comedian.
He hires a prime minister, Dmitry Medvedev, and starts grooming him to be his replacement. And so in 2008, he was successful. Dmitry won the presidential campaign, became the president of Russia.
Okay.
Dmitry names as his prime minister Vladimir Putin.
Sure.
And Vlad continues running the country.
Yeah.
It's kind of comical to watch the presidential speeches during these 4-year term, because they literally walk out together. And then Vlad waves to everybody like he's the president.
Dimitri's back. It's pretty wild to watch these things, because he just puts his hand up there, and then you just see Vlad's mouth kind of moving, just. And Dimitri's just like, I am a man,
I'm a 100% real human.
I'm a real boy. And so, it's pretty wild how realistic
they'll literally walk out together, and then they'll wave, and Vlad is the person that everyone's
taking pictures of Vlad, and then Dimitri's over there just.
And then Vlad just points to the mic, and Dimitri walks up in front of him, and he just stands right next to him the whole speech. And then they walk out together. It's really weird.
And if he says something, Vlad leans in and just. Hey, thanks for checking out this episode. Wanted to let you know real quick, we have an email list, and it's not like hey, we're going to send you our merch and new episodes all the time. We actually give you updates on these stories as we find out about them. So a lot of our episodes we've done a couple years ago now have updates, or the person the topic was about passed away or was caught by the police, or whatever updates we can find on episodes that we've done. We want to let you know about it so that our episodes just aren't, out there out of date. It's a really fun way to keep learning new information. And then every once in a while, we let you know about new events coming up or new episodes. And it's just a way to help us keep spreading this show. To join that email list, you can text TILLN to 66866, or there's a link in the description of this episode, or you can just go to TILLN.com. It's very easy to join this email list. It's everywhere. It's actually really hard to not join it. So...
Yeah.
So he's effectively president still.
Yeah.
In 2008.
Yeah, in 2008. And here's the thing about Russia. There is no limit to how many terms you can run as president. You can only do 2 consecutive, though, in their democracy. So in 2012, Medvedev doesn't run.
Yeah.
And Putin runs. And then Putin wins by a landslide again, because he still had decent political influence over the country.
And also, he just stood there for 4 years. And people were like, I feel like if I don't vote for this guy.
I like this guy.
Oh,
he's told me a lot. He's told me a lot that if I don't vote for him, he'll shoot me. And I don't want to.
Everyone.
I don't want to.
I've never seen him with a gun.
but I don't want to test it. I have seen him
stand in front of a fire. So
this unlocks the 6-year term.
Yes.
So now he gets to be president until 2018, where there'll be another election, and he can run for a second 6-year term. In 2018.
We're coming up on something different then.
So this is really interesting. So does his term. This term is where things start to get really interesting for Putin. And you start to see his KGB history really blossom.
Yeah.
It was...
It existed.
His first 2 terms...
I think he was playing the long game back then.
His first 2 terms, there was propaganda. Mm-hmm. There was... the state controlled all the media.
Sure.
But it wasn't it wasn't obvious. This term, Russia starts, doing...
Russian.
Yeah, Russia starts, influencing overseas elections online and doing all this espionage.
No proof they did that.
Huh?
There's no proof they did that.
They start doing all this stuff that everyone's tracing back to them.
Yeah.
That are this makes sense when your president is a former spy for a really corrupt organization. Of course he's going to do spy stuff.
And that's what their rationale was. He's just spying.
Yeah, he's a spy. What do you expect?
You expect a spy not to spy?
Spies will be spies.
I know. I know it. Yeah. Think of him as a Ring doorbell in front of our nation, right? Just...
And now he starts getting really aggressive towards the post-Soviet states, all those, the land that they lost in the fall of Soviet Russia. And so the biggest one being Ukraine, which is actually becoming a thing again.
Right.
And so he's annexed through this term. He goes to war with a lot of these nations and starts annexing land back into Russia successfully. Yes. And so he's pretty clearly on a campaign to get Soviet Russia back. Because I mean, he is one of those people who was a part of it before, and he's trying to get his land back, you know? And anybody who stands in his way is an enemy now. So a lot of the Western world is an enemy of that cause, and he is doing this almost psychological warfare as his spy background trains him, and his MMA background. They're really into psychological warfare.
Really into, you got it. Where the head goes, the body goes.
Yes. Yep.
You know?
And so a whole new side of Putin comes out, and he starts to seem a lot more irrational. His early terms, he actually had a lot of Western countries that were willing to ally with him. He
was playing politics before.
He was. And now he's like, I'm in charge. He's like, I'm good.
I gamed the system. I gave myself a 6-year limit.
Yeah.
I was not president for 4 years. He goes, now I've established myself and I can get away with a lot. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then things start getting crazy. Like he starts I shouldn't say he starts. All signs point to them starting to kill anybody, even within their own country, who go against what they say. Yeah. So like news reporters, people in their staff,
so now there's no opponents to run against them.
Dying. Yeah. Well, 2018 rolls around. I should say, during this first term, he passed. Or no, it was the second term. So 2018 rolls around, he runs and wins because it's crazy. He has a really high approval rating in Russia. Which is probably real. It's probably an authentic metric.
Yeah.
And their elections are probably totally authentic as well.
Yes.
So he wins this election, right?
By what margin?
Significant. I don't know what margin, but significant. Wins this election. And after the 2018 election, he passes into law an amendment to the Constitution, which changes your consecutive term limit from 2 terms to 4 terms. So now,
the rest of his life he could.
Now it went from his second term was going to end in 2024, and he was going to have to do some weird prime minister thing again if he wanted to stay in office. But now he can stay until 2036. With his term limits, as long as he can win the elections, which I mean, he will.
Which I mean, he will. All right,
vote for me or I'll shoot you
with my very real gun.
But so some very.
But I'm saying what? So. Why? You know, why does everyone fall in line with dictators, I guess? You know? The murder?
Suave? I don't know. They're convincing. They convince people of these things. Here's the thing. Here's what's becoming pretty clear. I listened to a podcast about this, and they talked about how they said Russia is failing at democracy. But maybe that's their goal.
Right.
They were like,
because then the other side of the propaganda is democracy doesn't work. Look.
Yep.
You know,
they said they're very much succeeding as an autocracy. Mm-hmm. What it really seems
they're trying to show Russians that democracy doesn't work.
Yeah.
And that's why they're doing smear campaigns on the United States.
Yeah. To make it look like our democracy
show that our democracy doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
trying to convince their people. So that way, and
that's what's super hilarious not hilarious. It's actually terrifying and it's ruining my life, but it gives me a lot of anxiety. But when people share very clear propaganda, and it's the people who are saying that all the rest of us are falling for propaganda, that's where I go, oh boy,
and that's what's scary is
and my view of propaganda is if you're gonna do it, at least be good at it. I've said this
convincing.
Before, you know.
Yeah, at least
if I am falling for some crazy scheme, at least they've done it well enough that I don't know.
Yeah, that I can't pick up.
What's annoying is whenever you're falling for a scheme that is very obvious to the rest of us.
If you're gonna fake something, at least be like, I don't know, Lil Michaela, and do it well.
Yeah, don't be like essential oils, where it's like the rest of us can tell.
Oh my gosh,
you know.
it looks very clear. Like the situation we're in is Vlad wants to restore Soviet Russia. And so he wants to restore it away from democracy back to what it was before, and then get all the land back. And the invasions that he keeps mounting are pretty clear evidence to that.
Sure.
And the just political control over the world that he has is scary.
Yeah, it's pretty staggering.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah.
But a little bit about the guy. He does have 2 daughters. He was married, got divorced in 2012.
You cannot do a whole episode about his political triumphs and then give me his Plenty of Fish profile at the end. All right. He's got 2 daughters. He just really loves, mountain biking.
Here's what's interesting. Here's what's interesting though. This is interesting. Nobody knew about one of his daughters until the divorce. They knew he had one. No one knew he had the second until the divorce. And then the divorce, the paperwork came out and it had like the visitation rights, and everyone was like, "Wait, you have a second daughter?" And he's like, my personal life is no one else's business. And he's done a really good job hiding his life from the world.
That's crazy.
But he also has this whole side of him, of his personal life, that is very public.
Curated.
And it's very interesting because he'll go do these MMA tournaments where he's beaten some dude down. And there's a really great photograph of him that comes out of that.
Do you think... Hey, so I mean, at that point, and this analogy tracks, all right? He's Harlem Globetrotting at the MMA fights. You know what I'm talking about? He is paying somebody to be the Washington Generals to just take a beating, and he's like spinning basketballs, just knocking them out at the same time, The refs are in on it. The whole thing's rigged.
Yeah, actually.
He is Harlem Globetrotting.
Actually, yeah. And he's doing this too. He's going hunting and he's posing shirtless, like flexing with a tiger.
And it's just one of his aides in a tiger costume.
Or he'll have like a giant fish.
It's his coat pointed toward the tiger.
He'll have this big fish, or there'll be pictures of him on his Harley. And it's like he's always got these like photos coming out over the weekend of like, what did Putin do this weekend? And it's like, oh, super manly stuff. It's like, oh, he is constantly a men's conference advertisement. Yeah, actually, because it is like he's always shirtless. He's always like doing something like camping or just hunting or wood. Fighting something or riding his motorcycle.
He straight up does have a thirsty boy Tinder profile life.
Yes.
He's got the fish. Mm-hmm. He's got the picture smiling with his family minus one daughter. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's got that. What's that book? It's got wild in the title. And
Wild at Heart.
Yeah, Wild at Heart. He's wild at heart if a dictator did it.
Yeah.
Okay. Dictator at heart. He's wild at heart if the people who read it had as much influence as he does.
Yeah.
So, very much trying to portray this public persona of a man's man.
Manly, strong, powerful.
Yeah, because he wants the world to think that that's who he is.
Right.
And his people to think that's who he is. So he continues to get voted president so that way he can turn Russia back into the Soviet Union. I think that's his goal. I think that's his whole MO.
Do you think he's setting up stuff for when he's done or when he's gone?
No, because actually he's been asked about that.
He's not training a successor or anything like that?
Yeah. So they asked him, they said, don't you think you should start a succession plan? Because he's like 75. And he said,
no,
he's literally said, if we're working to find a successor, then we're not working. And so,
okay.
And so he is actively working. Here's what I think is the reality. There's somebody he has for when he dies.
It's got
and
be.
he hasn't told anybody.
It's the bear. He's just gonna put a bear in charge.
That, or he's got like some crazy scientist like figuring out how to make him live forever.
That's also probably true.
Like, and I mean he's super rich. He's got
that,
like
or he died 15 years ago and it's just an AI running the whole thing. We don't know if Vladimir Putin's not an AI. He's a bot.
Vladimir Putin.
That's what it is.
So he man, the more I read about him and learn about him, I realized he's really kind of just, honestly, and this is going to be weird, but stay with me here.
Okay.
Taken 2 as a person. Like the movie.
The sequel.
The movie.
Not the
Taken,
original Taken?
The sequel. Yeah, the sequel. That's important because in Taken 1, let me summarize the plot if you don't remember. It's been a minute. Taken 1, Liam Neeson, his daughter gets kidnapped.
She gets taken.
She gets taken. Sorry. I got to use the right word.
Thank you.
It's branding. So his daughter gets taken. He goes and he kills everybody. Was somewhat closely involved in the interaction and gets her back. In Taken 2, the family of the people who lost loved ones to that was like, we need to go kill this guy.
Okay.
And so then they try and he gets
better.
away. He gets away. Putin is the family of the people who Liam Neeson killed.
Okay.
And Liam Neeson is the West. The West came in and destroyed the Soviet Union. And Putin is like,
he's just out for revenge.
I'm going to get
He's out
it
for
back.
political.
Yeah.
And
he's like, I'm going to restore the Soviet Union to its original glory. We're going to get all our nations back, all our land back. It's going to be all Soviet Russia. And then everybody who made this happen is screwed. So he's a scary man. Hopefully he doesn't make it through all of his 4 terms coming up. Because he has pretty much unbridled control over the nation of Russia right now.
yeah.
And is starting to gain pretty much unbridled control over the populace of a lot of other nations because of his usage of the internet and bots, dead internet, Russian internet, Russian internet theory.
Wow.
So scary man, kind of crazy the way he rose to power. I don't think he ever intended it. I think it was an accident.
You think he accidentally just got into power?
Yeah, because after the Soviet Union fell, he got that job. That was kind of just like, well, I need a job now. And one thing led to another, and he got to save that guy. And that led him into the White House of Russia. And he got close with Boris, and Boris used him.
You know, I think there's
to
one
save
part of
his
this whole
butt.
story that you were missing.
What?
Is with the mayor, the reason he was connected with the mayor is that he gave the mayor's children fiddle lessons.
Oh. And now he goes back and they have a fiddle on. Hey, thanks for watching this episode. If you liked it, you can watch next week's episode right now over on Patreon. Our Patreon supporters get all sorts of great perks like every episode a week early, ad-free. They get access to a Discord with our hosts and our producers and a whole bunch of other great perks and different things that make it worth your while. Just go to TILLN.com/support to become a supporter and help us out. We really appreciate that. But we'll see you next time on the next episode of Things I Learned Last Night.